Good afternoon, every pony here at BABSCon. We are about to start the dubbing panel with some of our very talented guests of honor here at the convention. Can we welcome them on stage? Come on up and give them a big, warm BABSCon welcome. Thank you. Now, we know that you know these talented actors from their work on My Little Pony, but all of them have actually been working in the industry doing quite a variety of projects even before Ponies. And so if we could just take a moment, we'd like to go down the line and have them briefly introduce themselves. I'm sure we all know who they are, but maybe if they want to talk about some of their other works that they've done in the past or anything else that they'd like to share with you.
Hi, I'm Marÿke Hendrikse. And I guess I'll just give you a couple of credits that I've done in anime, since this is about dub acting. Most of the work that we've done dubbing is Japanese to English, so I guess I'll give you some of the titles or characters that I've done in that. I play Revy in Black Lagoon. Yeah, it's my favorite character. I play Luna Maria Hawk in Gundam Seed Destiny. I play, funnily enough, this is actually kind of a very off the beaten path. I play Bubbles in Powerpuff Girls Z, which is the anime version of Powerpuff Girls. And I'm in a movie that I loved. It's one of the few projects that I've watched the whole thing through that I've done. It's called The Girl Who Leapt Through Time. And I play, it's a beautiful film. And I think her name is Sakimi, is the name. It's one of the school friends of the lead character. So those are some of my favorite credits that are anime dubbing things that I've done.
Wow, that's amazing. You remember all these things that I don't remember.
No, I had to really think about it and
I think
prepare.
we should just leave.
Oh, darn.
It was my preparation.
You win.
Thanks.
All right, can you hear me? Is this on? Okay, great. My name is Brian Drummond, and I have done a number of anime series. Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z, yes, the first. A number of the Gundam series, Zex Marquise and Gundam Wing.
Woo!
Some may remember Alan Shazar in Escaflowne series. A lot of Ryuk in Death Note, yes.
Oh my God.
And I worked with the lovely Marÿke here in Black Lagoon, where I played Benny in that series. And I know you guys probably remember hundreds more things, but those are some of some of the top ones that I recall working on today.
Oh, so it's over now.
I'm Cathy Weseluck, and as you know, I play Spike in this show, but the anime world,
I go back a very long time, actually, and so does Ian, if I may say so.
and the first anime series that I think a lot of people remember one of my characters from is Shampoo and Ranma 1/2. So she's a little bit crazy.
Hi, Ranma. Ranma takes Shampoo to date.
There's also, of course, this actually wasn't an anime, but it was sort of, everyone thought that it was dubbed because it had sort of a Japanese look to it in some ways, and it was more European, I guess, than Japanese, but it was during the anime years. It was called Cyber 6, where I played Cyber 6. Excuse me. And also, I played Garcia in Black Lagoon with these guys, too. Death Note, Nier in Death Note. Project Arms was an obscure one. Oh, yeah. Maison Ikoku, a little bit of Inuyasha, a little bit of Hamtaro. So we've done a lot of anime for a lot of years, and boy, have we seen it change from where we were, matching it, lip syncing, because it's a lip syncing thing. Dubbing is lip syncing to a picture rather than being in a group with people. And we came for the days when it was you had to actually match the lip movement, or you'd had to do it again and again and again. And now we have digital, so all we have to do is go with a mouse and you can edit. Anyway, those are a few, and on to Ian.
Yes. So most of you, if you're anime fans, will know me as the original voice of Goku. And you may not realize that I was also the second voice of Master Roshi from that same series. I'm cheating because I'm looking at these credits because I'm really old. And
I told you.
She did. I was also in Mobile Suit Gundam Wing. Mm-hmm. I was in Project A-ko. And Ranma 1/2
He's looking at his IMDb.
Mikado
Sometimes we have to do
Sanzinen.
that to like.
But aside from the anime stuff, you may also know me from Beast Wars, Transformers. I was Cheetor, Big Bot. I spent a lot of time with Big Bot, and I was Mega Man.
Oh, Pac-Man. Pac-Manian.
Oh, Pac-Man! Yeah, of course. No, it's not anime, but it's video games and stuff. So, that's me.
All right, so we will be giving a chance shortly for the audience to ask questions, but just to kind of get this started, I wanted to go down the line and ask you, can you kind of explain your experience with the dubbing process and how it's different from, say, something like My Little Pony, where you record the voices beforehand, or something like recording for a video game?
Starting me.
Down here, okay.
Well, it is drastically different. You couldn't have two more different types of work. With My Little Pony, we go in as a group, or any other show that's called a pre-lay series, which means you are pre-laying down the audio tracks before the artists go in and draw the action. So in that way, we go in as a group and you record it almost like an old style radio play. Mm-hmm. So we have a script and four of us would have lines. It'd be my line, Brian's line, then Cathy, and you go through the script.
I guess I'm not in your show.
Chronologically.
Hey.
No, you're not cast in the show. Sorry. I can hardly see you. You're so tiny down there. I couldn't see you. And in dubbing, you sit or stand in front of a TV screen, and you do it line by line to a pre-existing piece of animation. So as Cathy was talking about, you need to match those lip flaps and try, and hopefully a lot of it has to do with the writing. Mm-hmm. Because if the writers get it right, then you basically have a line that's the right length and the right number of bop, 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 bop. And we can kind of fudge that because we've done it a lot, and you can kind of get a line to fit accurately. But also, as Cathy was saying, the technology today makes dubbing so much better because you can slide that line a little bit this way or that way. And then the other thing that a lot of people don't even realize is that in the old days when we were doing it on videotape, they would rewind the tape if you had to go do a take again. So it would go, and you'd have to wait for that. Yeah, and then try to, okay, is that where we're starting? No, we're not. We got to start over here. And it was long. It took a long time. So it's quite different now, but that's the process of dubbing.
We had to work harder, actually, back then than we do now, in that respect. And it was interesting because we never thought that anime, when it came our way, was going to be as huge as it is.
No idea.
We had no idea. And back in the early days, too, when we started with anime, it wasn't just Japanese animation. It was, the animation came from various countries. Germany, Italy, England. I mean, there's different regions in England. But it would be very strange to try to lip sync those kinds of projects because then of course, you have a French accent. You would see the little lips going, like bonjour.
Yeah, actually, that's
so
right.
So then you would have to say your line
in
English.
French has a whole bunch of oohs.
Yeah, and so like you're thinking, here comes a so you have to kind of fake it, or you'd have to stretch it or something, and it was a different ball of wax.
What was the show? Cathy and I were talking last night about really old things that we did. We won't go into that. But there was old. But there was an anime show. Not an anime. Excuse me.
You watch it, Sonny. I've been trying to fool them with the other voice, and this is actually my real voice.
We'll be up here before you know it.
I'm testing you here, but there was a show, and there was tons of them, and it was European.
Animated Showcase Classics.
No, I thought it was Cats. It's something to do with cats.
Cats, like the
That's
musical?
a theater performance.
Oh, maybe not.
In Broadway.
Anyway, there was hundreds of episodes. I can't remember what it was called.
Well, I just want to interject because I was just going to say, and you guys might know what that was, but maybe this is Idian, but there was a series called Animated Showcase Classics. I told a few of the fans of this when I was at the meetup. And they were Russian animation, and they were fables, and
I
they were
remember those.
hand-drawn in the 40s.
I do remember
Russian
that one.
animation hand-drawn in the 40s, and we voiced them. So that's what I thought he meant, but I guess not.
No, that was really cool. It was like,
Was it before that?
Anyone interested in
Kurt.
Russian hand-drawn 40s animation here?
I
Anyone?
am.
One
well, if you're
hand.
animation fans,
Because
it was beautiful.
Не
It was
знаю
beautiful.
точно сходить animation, просто фошонистно, только представь, что вроде animation.
Were you in Spiff and Hercules?
Yes.
That's the one. And there was a ton of episodes, right?
Yes.
A load of them. I'm going to
Yes.
share an anecdote. It got to the point where we've done dubbing a million different ways. You know, there's with a voice director, without a voice director, with what we call a engineer who's really a technical guy. So he's not really trying to get a performance out of you. He just wants to make those flaps sync, you know, like, okay, that's good. So this show got to the point where I think they tried it a few different ways, but there was so many episodes, and the production schedule was so tight, they really needed to crank through it. And all of these guys are examples of people that just get that form of work. Because it is really a different discipline, and there's really, really good actors that aren't that great at dubbing because they go, I need to emote, I need to act, and dubbing is I need to fit and then act. You know, so there's a real different discipline. Anyway, this crazy show, you guys will love this because of my now becoming famous 75% rule. It's in this thing, there wasn't a lot of screaming, but there was a lot of work. And I'd be in a studio for 8 hours alone, just cranking out episodes. And I got to be really, really fast, and it started to become like a personal best, like a golf game. How many lines an hour can you do? And I can't remember what I was up to, but it was stupid.
And the machines used to break down in those days.
Yes, those big.
We didn't
giant,
have digital,
stupid-
everybody.
Yeah,
And the
Every
dash.
pony.
it was crazy.
We had to do it again and again and again, and if you didn't get it, you did it again.
Yeah.
Then the digital machines came in, and then they kept breaking down, and it was really fun. So
Yeah.
we put in our work, our dues back then.
But this ended up where we said, okay, there's going to be no voice director for Ian, only because I was a problem. and I said, look, I can really help you out here, but here's the way I want to do it. And it got to the point where I had created kind of a lazy boy recliner out of these studio chairs. And you can picture this. This is a visual aids here. Yeah. So the screen's over there. We set up the mic stand like this, and my legs are up. And I'm going, go. I can't remember what the lines were, but it was a French show, so it was always and the mic was like this. My script was here. It's funny to me.
We're laughing.
Okay. Well, because you guys know my general studio posture is kind of like, oh, my line. Anyway, so that was really fun.
That's awesome.
Now, obviously, in something like dubbing, where you are restricted by timing and, to an extent, the original performance, how have you found that has affected your acting, and how have you compensated for that?
Well, yeah, original performance, we only once in a while we probably ask to hear too much of what's going on. Once you know a show, I want to know once I know the character, I just want to know where the flaps are, where, you know, and we know where we start, we know where we finish, and try and make it work. And like Ian said, you really hope that there was a good writer on this one, that the translation was done well enough that they could find a way to make it fit. Because it takes so much more time when you have to rewrite lines constantly because they're not fitting. They've given you too many words or too few. And obviously everyone here is very familiar with the crazy over 9,000 meme. You've all heard that, and that, I think, was created out of the ridiculousness of what actually happened in the studio, in that I had a line for Vegeta, and I'm just doing my work. We're doing a scene. I don't know it any different than any other scene, and I actually didn't really have any idea how huge the show would be, but you get a certain number of flaps, you know, it's over 9,000. I'm like, okay, so I read my line, and I didn't see how his lips flapped first, but I just do the, you know, how I would probably act it would be, what? It's over 9,000! It's just nice and quick. Do it quite quickly. But then he went, oh, the director's like, it's a little short, Brian. Like his mouth stays open quite a bit longer. Okay. It's over 9,000! No, it's like open for way longer than that at the end. Can we change the word? No, we can't make another word because it's just, it goes na da 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 na na, and it stays open. And I'm like, well, that's going to sound ridiculous. Why would I? It's over. So he said, no, Bron, we've got to keep going, and I just did. It's over 9,000! And I held it out.
That's it.
And then we moved on to the next line, and I completely forgot about it for 5 years until someone said, have you seen what this guy did with this? It's some crazy meme because why did he do that? Because it sounded so stupid. And I'm like the guy that did the stupid read because it was the only read that fit the flaps. But that's where some of these things can come from.
And it's partly because we don't see the picture until you get there to record.
Yeah.
If you've got like a prelay script, most people read their prelay script before they go into session and think about it or whatever their process is. And then, but when you go into a dubbing session, you haven't seen the script before. You don't know the stage directions because the stage directions where it tells you, Johnny trips over the bicycle as he goes into the garage. There is none of that stuff. You have zero context for what's actually happening in the scene. So basically you're standing there with a script that you've never seen before and a picture that you've never seen before, a character you hopefully know, and you are immediately recording for a keeper. Yeah. And so you're guessing at 99% of what you're actually reading to see if it fits the flaps. And as these guys have said, if it's well written, it usually just sort of does fit. You have to do a little bit of nudging. Maybe you need another take to just kind of stretch something out. Not quite that kind of crazy. That's
It's
hilarious.
weird.
It's weird.
It's weird.
But so that's kind of the thing is that you don't see any of this stuff and then you're just going in and doing it cold. And I actually find it kind of an interesting challenge as an actor to be that technical, to just do it. Just do it and get it done. None of this agonizing about, you know, all that, just do it. I kind of liken it to film and television actors who'd have to do 40 takes of a crying scene. And some people can just cry on cue. They can just cry like that. Tears come pouring out of their eyes. That's how I think of dubbing. It's like, this is what you're just doing, do it now. I don't know what you guys think, but.
Well, then the funny part is here in Vancouver, where we are located, it's a different kind of process than it is on the East Coast in Toronto, where they use what they call Rhythmaband. I don't know if they still use it.
They
you guys
did.
know that?
They did. When I left Toronto 10 years ago, they were using the Rhythmaband. Yeah.
And that is a bizarre thing because what happens, they don't just do it for animation. In fact, they do it more for live action, or if they have a soap opera that's in another language. They cast us so we sound similar to the original characters in the drama. And what we do is we go in again one at a time, and we see the video on the wall or wherever it is on the screen in front of us.
Like that.
And then, ready everybody? From left to right, in this thin column under like this rectangular band.
At the top of the screen.
At the bottom, actually.
Oh, for me it was at the top.
For me, it was the bottom. It would come from left to right. Handwriting of your dialogue, handwritten dialogue. So you're supposed to be looking, I don't know how we do this unless we're aliens, but you're supposed to be reading the line and then matching that to the flaps at the same time as it's going by like this.
So you say the line when it hits the point. That's the idea.
As soon as it comes on screen, you begin saying
There's like a line, yeah. It's insane. So I'm like, are you kidding me? And we have to do it, and they do it in Ontario. And I'm like, I like what we do better with the beep system.
Yeah.
You know, it's easier.
It's easier.
Well,
so it's
Vancouver
fun.
was kind of the cutting edge of. It was all happening at the same time. The transition to digital, the not Renaissance, but the
Rebirth?
the
No.
rebirth
The birth.
or the popularity of this new art form called anime really had a lot of its roots in Vancouver in terms of the reversions anyway. I mean, obviously anime was huge in Asia, but in terms of English versions of it, we did a lot. And something that you might find interesting regarding Dragon Ball is the group or the partnership that had the rights to the Dragon Ball series was based in Texas, and I'm sure any of you guys who are fans know about Funimation. And they, the story was, is it Gen Fukunawa or Gen? Anyway,
Furukawa?
one of the principals of this company, his uncle had the rights in Japan, so it was kind of a family thing, and he said, "Oh, yeah, sure, take these cartoons that I've made in Japan and reversion them and make a little business out of it." But these guys had come from like Hewlett Packard or something, so they show up in Vancouver with their starched white shirts and their ties, and they're going, "We got this cartoon series, and we hear you fellas up here know how to fix them up, make them English, and we don't know." So
You do it.
so my partner and I at the time, who is also connected to My Little Pony, is the voice director of the series, Terry Klassen. We had a company, and we would do writing for commercials and for animation products. And we were already doing this reversioning for these various other projects that Cathy was mentioning and some other stuff that we were doing from Europe. So we kind of knew how to take a bad translation of a script and make it more English. So
And
that it
actable.
sounded and actable.
Conversational, too.
So our job was to reversion the Japanese straight translation, watch all the shows, trying to fix them up. And I will freely admit, I totally, and I think this is a common story. You look at, when it first came, first of all, anime
God love ya.
looked weird. It just looked weird. To our eyes, you know, our
Scooby-Doo and the
sensibilities-
Flintstones is
yeah,
what we grew up
Scooby-Doo,
with.
Flintstones, Disney, Warner Brothers, and then giant eyes that don't move, and like, what? You know, who's gonna like this? Doesn't matter who's gonna like it, it's a job. So we do it, and you do the best job you can because that's what you do when you have a job. But then we're watching these things and going, what's the story now? How many? What? How come there's no
exploded.
ending? What? You know, because we're used to, you know, a 22-minute episode, a half an hour. There's a beginning, middle, and an end, and something happened. And these things were like, nothing happened.
They're still fighting.
They're still fighting.
And in midair, suspended.
Did someone win?
No,
Why are
will
they-
anyone win?
No. So we, you know, dutifully did this work, and I'm, you know, just kind of insider stuff where we just went, I don't know who's gonna watch this stuff. Huh?
I didn't say that.
Everyone.
I thought
Everyone.
Everyone.
And then it's this giant phenomenon, and I couldn't be happier. Even though I didn't keep doing the Goku voice because I was just freaking tired of screaming. And seriously, it was tough, right? I mean, you know what it's
Went
like.
through a lot of throat lozenges.
And another little insider thing, like there was a strange loophole of the union contract that someone applied this weird bit of language that was in the legal contract that said you didn't have to be paid for what was quote unquote a vocalization.
That wasn't a line or words.
Or a
It was
word.
a vocalization.
So if it wasn't words, it was a vocalization.
and
well,
it was free.
anime.
Unpaid.
What percentage do you think of anime is yelling,
It's not words.
falling,
Screaming,
fighting?
tumbling,
Getting punched in the face.
punching, dying.
Yeah, exactly. There's a
Getting born again and
75%
dying again.
rule.
So you do a 8-hour shift and say 18 lines and 400 vocalizations
Yeah.
and walk out of there with $6 going, I can't talk.
Why am I so
15% of it,
tired?
which goes to your agent.
So if anyone wonders why I retired,
But anyway.
that's why. I said, yeah, I think, yeah, no. But Brian and I can both say, with a huge amount of ego, that
Speaking for you?
he'll agree. I think
He'll agree, yes.
that everyone who did the voices after us were imitating us.
I
When
think
they started,
that's true.
yes.
Yeah,
When they
it's
started,
like,
they
can you
had
sound
to.
like that first guy? Well, I think so. I don't know if they did or not.
Then they became their own. Which
They
was
sure did.
fantastic. Yeah, but
Huge.
They were told when it was taken away and went to Dallas, you just we're not doing it in Canada anymore. Just sound like these guys. Find guys to match these guys.
Have you ever met your guy?
No, I'd love to. We're gonna have a scream off one time if we meet at a con. I look forward to it. But then I know the first few sounded very close to us, and then they sort of morphed into their own version. Then I think they went back and redid their first ones and redid the ones that we had done.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, went back and refinished them all.
There's various versions around, right? And then Funimation, they're not stupid. They actually have a re-release of the original ones.
Yeah,
someone told me that because I signed something here.
Yeah.
And I went, whoa, they are smart people.
Yeah.
So that's
No,
a
there's
little bit
great
of the
fans. And that
inside.
cast is a great cast too. Those are good guys, and that was really new for them too. A bunch of radio and stage guys that had to jump in and sort of do this
Oh,
work
yeah.
that wasn't happening in Dallas at the time.
No,
either,
so they created an industry, and
That's
those
pretty
guys
cool.
are.
it's really flourished from what happened out of that one show, Dragon Ball Z.
I didn't know that. That's a good piece of history. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
A lot of throat lozenges.
Yeah.
You've mentioned before how the dubbing industry has kind of changed over the years, especially with different systems and different ways of matching the words. How do you think it will continue to change in the future?
Well, there isn't much of work in Vancouver anymore, dubbing-wise, I find. There's less work than there used to be.
Yeah, we seem to be doing more French
that's
projects,
changed.
actually.
Yeah.
Yep.
Quite a bit
Yeah.
of French projects that are coming through town.
It's interesting, yeah.
So the
Well,
country of origin is different.
it still exists, but I guess that's true too. We still do it, but other countries are doing it too. Other places are doing it, whereas we used to be quite a hub.
Yeah, I believe Texas and Florida was probably where the majority of anime dubbing is happening now. There might be some in LA, non-union in LA as well.
But I think the biggest change, like from now till then, technically, is simply that it's just so much easier to edit. So the
Yes,
actor doesn't have
yes.
the load on their shoulders anymore, where we're responsible for getting that 9,000 or that, English syllable or consonant that has to fit into the end of the French word. We don't have to worry about that and do it over again, a little longer, a little shorter. They just kind of snip out the spaces, add a breath here, etc. And it's way faster.
Yes, the engineer is your friend.
Yeah,
So it's really moved along quickly. And plus now, this doesn't apply to ADR or dubbing. ADR, by the way, means animated dialogue replacement or audio digital reproduction. When we hear ADR, we know it means dubbing or lip syncing. Whereas what Ian was talking about, where you go into a group and work with a bunch of actors, director and engineer like Pony, is a prelay. So those are just the two differences. And the pay is very different.
Oh,
Would anyone like to talk about that? Actually, well, I don't know if that'll be a question, but from somebody.
Yeah, it's probably
Time for
about
that.
5 times as hard to do the ADR work and about 1/5 of the money, which
I
is
agree.
which is
That's
interesting.
probably the great math.
Yeah,
And
for
you
sure.
get paid by the line or by the hour, which is ever greater in dubbing. And you get a session fee for 4 hours plus a buyout fee for prelay.
And you also, in a 4-hour session, you can do as many episodes as they want to put in
Right.
4 hours, but they have
Right.
to pay you for each of those episodes. Whereas if you're in doing a dubbing session, they can put as many episodes in whatever your time period that you're booked for is. It's just literally a line count. It isn't distinguishable by show, by show, by show. So you're not paid individually for each show.
Just for how many lines you got in. Yeah. But you can get through, like I said, that is one of the changes with the question is so much faster with digital, because even in the old days when they were on cassette, on a tape, on a VCR tape, if you had 1 or 2 lines as a character at the front of an episode and your next one was at the end, you'd have to wait for them to fast forward to that to get there. So it's like, so you got your 5 minutes sitting there while they're fast forwarding to your next line and queuing it up for you to do that. Now, because it's digital, just one button and it goes directly to your next
Yeah.
line and
Type in the
directly
code
to
or
your
something.
next line.
There was
It's
many
so fast.
tables tipped over.
We used to have the jog wheels, the jog wheels at the beginning. It was a DAR machine, it was
yeah,
called,
yeah.
those digital audio recorder machines.
Oh,
It's a
those!
DAT. Isn't it called a DAT?
DAR, DAR,
Oh,
the
oh.
actual, the DAT are the DATs are
DAT?
the
Well,
tapes. The
Oh,
tapes,
that's-
the actual
okay, okay.
tapes.
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, that stood. I think that's what it stood for. But you're talking about
you
Ocean,
taped on
right?
the DAT. Yeah, I'm talking about Ocean, where we do
They
most
had
of
a
it.
they had a proprietary system at the time that was, it didn't need to be as large as it was, but they were big units.
honking.
And it was what you
It was the
guys have got on
latest
an iPhone now. It's really simple stuff, but at the time, groundbreaking. And actually, that was kind of what I was leading up to in one of rambles, is that as a result, like coming from that rhythmoband system that we were talking about earlier, that was kind of a motion picture, old school way of replacing dialogue. And because Vancouver was kind of new, we were also very technologically advanced, and most of the studios were looking for ways to just kind of rewrite how this stuff was done. And they were using tools that weren't necessarily designed specifically for dubbing, but they went, oh, we could do this really fast and apply it to dubbing. And we use beeps actually, I don't think we've really explained that, have we?
I don't think so,
beep
no, the
system.
beeps.
So when you watch a piece of video that is pre-existing, and you got your line on a piece of paper, what you hear in your headphones as the scene goes along is beep, 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 then your line. So they're exactly the same amount of time. And on the fourth imaginary beat, that's when you start talking. So that's how we do the timing in dubbing, is you always hear beep, beep, beep.
Talk.
Right.
Yeah.
If you're doing it right.
And by the way, the dubbing format or the process also happens if you're a television on-camera actor.
Yeah.
And if you've made a mistake, if you're doing your scene as an on-camera actor and the director, after they look at the film after, they say, oh, look at the air conditioning went on in the middle of
the
the line,
sound's usually
or
corrupted.
Plane
we
or
couldn't
something.
understand what he said, or there was
Windy.
a sound, or something
someone
happened.
farted.
And they try to get the original actor to come back in, watch themselves, and try to lip sync the same line back into their own mouth. So that's also ADR, which is the actual process, but you're English to English. So for on-camera acting, it's a corrective measure, whereas for dubbing, it's another language being
And
literally replaced.
You guys would know this. I would imagine a lot of you are probably Star Wars fans. You know that, like, what's the percentage? I remember reading it somewhere. There was a huge percentage of the Star Wars film, like almost all of it, that was dubbed afterwards with the actual actors. And I can't remember what the reasoning was, but when you
Was it like things clashing,
there was
like
stuff,
smashing,
there was
like
stuff
fighting
going
and all
on,
that?
and they replaced almost the entire movie's dialogue.
Wow, I didn't know
So
that.
watch that the next time you sit down and have one of your marathons, which will this week, because I know it's on my schedule.
Tomorrow.
Watch that with that in mind, and you'll be surprised how much you pick up and go, oh, that's right, that's why that looks that way. But you don't really notice it unless you're thinking about it. So.
Should we do questions from the audience now?
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and open it up to audience questions. I believe we are lining up on your left side. We should have some staff members coming by to kind of raise their hands with where they're lining up. Make sure that you form an orderly line. You will tell your question to the question screener, and if it gets approved, then you can go ahead and ask it to the guests. You can ask a question for the entire panel, or if you have a question for one specific guest, you can ask them something directly. So,
Did you say that there's going to be a question screamer?
a screener.
Screener.
Like someone's going to get you.
Yeah, this is we
not
talked.
want to know how Goku got. No. That would be a question screamer.
We thought about that earlier, that because we had to scream for all of our anime work, you
Yes.
guys have to scream your questions, but we didn't want to
That's
go
not a
there.
good
No,
idea.
please don't.
I was gonna
Microphone,
ask-
that's not a good idea.
If
I
this
was
were
gonna
a
ask
Soul Rack panel.
Yeah, I was going to ask a quick question. By raise of hand out there, how many people here were drawn into, because this is a pony convention, were drawn into anime first before they knew anything about MLP? How many people are watching anime
Oh,
first?
so this is the
There
okay.
we go.
So this is the anime group,
There's a
basically.
lot of
Yeah.
anime
Yeah, of
fans
course,
here.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yes, totally.
Sure.
Sure,
Yeah,
can totally be
sure,
both at the
sure.
same time. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, looks like we're ready to start the questions.
All right, my name's Cody, and I
Hi,
just
Cody.
have a question. So you guys said that it was like 5 times the work, but only 1/5 the pay. So how do you guys, why do you guys think it's worthwhile to do the dub if you only get 1/5 the pay?
Because it's basically all work, and it also makes you really flexible. So we won't. I mean, I don't really. It's work, so the actor doesn't always have work available 27 hours a day. And also, if you get flexible, you may be the person that has a specialty now that can do that, whereas others may not. That's my answer.
My personal rule on
You're
that
retired?
is if it fits, I'll go do it. And there's certain companies that I will just work for, and I don't care if it fits because I like the people. And there's other companies I just don't like, and I won't go out of my way to make it fit
In the schedule, that is, yeah.
in the schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about you? I have a reason for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know if I do it to hone skills or anything like that anymore, but it does pay considerable amount less, but like Ian said, if it fits within my schedule, I'll do it. And there are a lot of people that learn a great amount of things early on in their careers because they have no other bookings that week. They're not doing anything.
It's a great training ground.
It's a great training ground to learn how to not make your P's pop on the microphone and to have engineers explain
really
to you
good.
volume and you learn a lot about mic technique. So that time when you do finally book a role on MLP or book a prelay session, you actually know how to work a microphone and you're not too terrified walking into that room, bobbing your head all around the mic and the engineer's screaming at you because you have no clue what you're doing. You've learned a few things at a much lower pay rate, but you've learned quite a bit.
And a little less pressure,
And a
too.
little
With
less
a
pressure,
lot
too.
of people looking at you.
You can also make up your money if you're doing a narrator role for
Yes.
that series.
Yes,
Yeah.
Because
true.
you're not lip syncing anything, and how
And you're
how
just-
much money times 700 lines? There's a poke in the eye, no poke in the eye.
Yeah, that's
So
pretty good.
it depends, I guess.
For me, I like doing dubbing because it often gives me a chance to do something that I can sink my teeth into a little bit more. So, I love Saturday morning cartoons and I love doing all that fun stuff. And I also enjoy working in subject matter that is often much darker than the subject matter that you see on Saturday morning at 7:30. So that's one of the reasons I really like dubbing.
And
Because
Marÿke
that
is very dark.
Yeah.
I am. I
very-
don't necessarily look it, but
No, she's all sunshine and light, but she's dark.
No, she is a very fluffy cat, but his name is Gurr.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks. Question.
Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
Hi, Ryan.
So for these dubbing and making sure that the words fit the lip flaps, have you ever had a character or like a script that you say, okay, I got this character, I know what I'm going to go in and do. Then when you kind of suddenly match the lip flaps, just either the energy changes or something changes, and you're like, oh, okay, now the character's this way.
I think the director would tell you if you're not on the money. I mean, if you started out and they're like, oh, well, we like what you're doing. It's like the first few shows anyway. They kind of hear what you're doing and then they say whether you're in the ballpark or not or if they're going to change it. But it's also just, I think, a matter of technicality. Like, so the director, the engineer's always there too going, oh, you popped that, or, can you do that again because you're moving too quickly, or we need it to be loud or something like that. So I think when you auditioned with what you did, and then if there's any change, then the director would let you know that. Any basic change. Is that what
And they have
you're-
voice refs to let you know if you're off track at all. And everyone's voices, I think, on every show that they first start, if a show lasts for a considerable amount of time, it changes a lot
Yeah.
over time. Like I know if I listen to some of the first things I did for Dragon Ball, by the time I was finished, 20 years later or 15 years later, your voice changes a lot, and there's a little bit of change over that. Well, listen to The Simpsons, like
Yeah,
Homer
the
is
first
not
Homer.
the same
Yeah,
guy.
Homer is
For
definitely.
even the first 5 years, he's so much different than he is right now.
Yep.
But things morph a little bit, and that's okay too, because as real people, our voices change a little bit over our lives. So
And it's way deeper in the morning than it is at 3 o'clock.
Yeah, well, that's true, too.
So that does change too.
I think too, like for if there's something you have a bit more freedom in terms of the writing when you're in a session for dubbing. It's you, the engineer, and the director, the voice director. And I've rewritten lines with a director multiple times just to make it flow a little bit better for the personality of the person that I'm playing. So that's kind of a fun thing to be able to do too.
yeah. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Manuel.
Hey, Manuel.
Hi, Manuel.
Who inspired you to voice act? Who are your influentials?
Who were we inspired by?
Ian.
Dawes Butler.
Who?
Dawes Butler.
Who's that?
He's it's
Well, I'll tell you a fable from long ago.
he was a voice actor that I wish I could remember all the roles that he did, but he was like He was not Mel Blanc, but he did iconic cartoons and iconic characters. But where I really came to know him was from Stan Freberg, which these are old radio references, and he was like the comedic voice of Stan Freberg, and he just, even as a kid, for some reason I heard me in him, and I went, that sounds like voices that I could do. And when I started making films as a young teen, a lot of them were animated, and I would do voices. I would just do my best Daws Butler impersonation. So, Daws Butler, Daws Butler.
Mel Blanc, for me. I thought he was awesome.
Yeah, Frank Welker is unbelievable, and of course Mel Blanc was stuff that we grew up with. But I when I started, it was as a performer. It's about I need to work. This is another industry. I can use my instrument somehow, and it wasn't like I am inspired to be this next. It wasn't any of that so much as can I make money as an actor doing that? I have a skill set and I booked something. And as I got into it more, I'm like, wow, who are all these people? And I started discovering more about other people who did it and realizing some of my favorites. And
that is such an honest answer, by the way, because there are a lot of people that will come up and say, "Oh no, I've always wanted to be a voice actor," and very, very few of them did. I was an animation geek, so it was kind of part of the globe of what I was interested in, and I wanted to do something. And because I made my own films, I did my own voices, but even then, I don't think I would say honestly that I knew I was going to be a voice actor, but it was in the galaxy. Sorry, I interrupted.
Mm-hmm. You can give me some sugar because I'm the same as Brian. I'm the same. I'm very similar to Brian. I just want to act, and so it was a thing that I thought was really cool. I don't know if some of you've been at the panels where you may have heard that Tara Strong and I went to high school together for a year. So she had been acting for, a long time and had been doing a lot of animation. And so I knew she did it. So it was kind of this thing in my mind that I knew you could do it. But it wasn't a particular focus of mine. It was just, again, a way to act, a way to attempt a new project or a new kind of style or medium of acting. So that was what interested me, but not something that I was like aiming towards, as the pinnacle of my aspirations for my career.
And these guys are actors. Like, they can remember lines. I've seen Marÿke in a play.
Yeah.
And, that's a couple hours of, you got to remember stuff.
Mm-hmm. Not in voice acting.
Not in skill set for me.
Good question.
Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
Great
Thank
question.
you.
You guys are doing great on the questions. I like these.
Hi, I'm Troy.
Hello. Hi.
Hey.
I was wondering, what was the first kind of voice work you did, be it radio or prelay or even ADR, and what was the hardest transition going from one to the other?
I have the best first one.
Go. It was not pornography.
Well, no, but
sort of.
It's a joke. It's
not. It wasn't. But here's what it was. When I was a teenager, because I started acting professionally as a teenager, I did the tape. So that should tell you something. The tape that girls got when they got the birth control pill. I was the girl who explained some of the myths about birth control, and then and how you took the pill in order to be safe with it and all that kind of stuff. So that was my first voiceover job. And then transition-wise, the hardest one, I don't know, I guess maybe dubbing is probably the one where you're like, whoa, what's going on here? But not, as Ian said earlier, you can either do it or you can't. It's a very specific thing that some people are good at and some people just aren't. And it isn't a reflection on them as an actor. It's just a teeny little skill thing that you can do or you can't. So I would say that for me.
It's like being better at English than math or something.
Mm-hmm.
For me, I think I started in commercials, and I think the first couple, I think I did a Bendorf Verster, which doesn't even exist anymore, I don't think, does it? Anyway, it was like a Hewlett-Packard or IBM kind of company. Also I did 21 commercials, but they were little funny background elves, animated elf voices for Vancouver Centre Mall. The host of the show where I worked at CBC, I wasn't in I wasn't doing that for a living at the time, voice acting. I was an associate producer for a radio music department. He's the one who got me into it, the host of the show. And he said, I'd like you to do commercials for me. You have a funny voice, and let's do some strange characters. I'm like, that sounds like fun. So those were the first two. And then animation, I played a goose. Remember Kissy Fur? It was a promo,
yeah.
and it didn't go. I think Ian was in that.
Yeah, Kissy Fur.
Kissy Fur was a goose, and this was the first character they wanted me to do as a goose.
My very frickin' first character. I have to crack my voice and sustain that. I was terrified. So
You can remember it. I'm
yeah, no, I
amazed.
remembered it all right. Yeah, I was like, I'm going to kill myself
Yeah, that
here.
was pretty cool.
What was your first?
Well, like I said, I'm a performer. I graduated from theater school. I'm trying to find work and doing some plays and the odd film thing in Vancouver, Stargate or X-Files, and you want to work. You have an instrument and you want to somehow play it. And I saw there was some forum happening about animation, and these new guys, these mainframe guys, were coming to the city of Vancouver, and they were going to do some series called Reboot or something like that. And I did not. I heard they were going to be casting for this, and that was my. I ended up getting cast somehow. I missed the first auditions, but I watched a panel like this. I think Lee Tokar was up there, and Mike Donovan. I don't know. There were some random people I didn't even know chatting about what was going to be happening in this industry, and I don't know why they were trying to drum up some exposure about it. But I went to this, took notes. I still have the notes I took sitting out like you guys, watching what they were doing. And then I didn't end up getting on the show, but they had to recast Bob, I think a year into it or something, and that was my very first audition. I did not get that part. When they when they recast Bob, I did not get that role, but my next audition was a big series that rolled into Vancouver called G.I. Joe Extreme. And it was a new G.I. Joe series, and I got cast in a lead role of a character named Ballistic that they changed to Eagle Eye. Shortly after that, that was my first role, and I got Vegeta right after that, role too. Those are my first things, yeah.
I have a reboot story for you.
A reboot?
There's a classic line from Michael Beignet, who was the original Bob, that gets quoted and quoted and quoted and quoted. And he said he was having some issue with the producers. I don't know exactly what was going on. Maybe he wanted to go on vacation and they wanted to record or something stupid. And the line was, "I'm Bob. You can't recast Bob." And they went, "Oh, really?" And that's why you ended up at that audition. Okay. And that's why I ended up being quote unquote Glitch Bob, which was Bob. And then they brought Michael Beignet back, and they all kissed and made up. And then there was two Bobs. You know the storyline, right?
And then there were three.
A tale of
and then
two
there were
Bobs
four.
or something. Anyway, so that's the reboot story. My first voice work was for my own films when I was making animated films when I was a teenager. But my first professional voice work was a commercial for a department store, a regional department store called Woodward's.
Oh, yeah.
And I started as a character voice, and I was basically playing a guy like from Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure or Fast Times at Ridgemont High. I was like, "Hey, it's a dude," and it was like, "Get your jeans at Woodward's, it's awesome," And I thought, this is the best ever, I get to go and act like an idiot. And the strangest thing was, as I made myself this little niche in commercials, because Vancouver was a huge commercial production community, and I broke in being the character voice guy. So I would do accents and I would do voices like the dude and whatever. And the commercial market started to change where they wanted not the old-fashioned kind of announcer for the radio commercial, and they wanted real sounding people. And they went, well, let's get that guy. And I couldn't believe it. What? I'm the announcer? I'm usually the character guy. So that
Man
kind
number
of transition.
one or woman number two?
Yeah.
Or...
That's cool.
Cool. Thank you.
Thanks.
Hello. Hello, my
Hello.
name is Kokeshi, and my question is, what is the most awkward, whatever language it was, to English dub you've ever did? Like, the most painful one to say.
You mean line?
Hey, line or a show?
Line, show.
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Awkward.
They're
I
blending.
think when they were talking earlier about French being difficult, I dubbed a French live action film into English, and I was playing one of the little girls. That was hard because of the things like the French move their mouths differently than we do, and we have different sounds, and your mouth changes to produce those sounds in ways that we don't use in English. And so that was challenging, and then it was a little girl to top it all off. So
I always thought it was just because the French are difficult.
They're awesome cooks.
Live action is, everyone here has probably done a fair bit of live
that's
action.
the hardest.
It's way harder than anime, because anime, they exaggerate the flaps so you can get words in there, but I've always found Japanese live action very difficult because to me, it seems like they hardly move their lips. Like it's like, is there a line in there? And it's like the mouth isn't really animated, and so it's hard to sort of fit words, English words in there that look like they fit properly, and it always seems like it's too big. You shouldn't be saying it that way, and and it was like, was it open there at the end or was it closed? You don't know when they started and stopped, and that was challenging. But for anime, even my first one, I think I found the most awkward. Felt so awkward when I first did Dragon Ball. I didn't know what I was doing. It's this brand new show. I didn't even know what the show was about. I just got this crazy little. All I was told, I remember, to come up with a voice was, he's very small. He's a small, egotistical prince. So I'm thinking maybe it would he have an accent? He's like an English accent? No, he can't. He's like from another planet. Like, oh, so he's an alien, like, beep, boop, boop, boop. No, but he's still a human. Oh, looking. Oh. And it was, to come up with something was just bizarre. And I remember we played with it forever with the guys from Funimation because they didn't know either. And we finally landed on something, and then I had to try and fit it in these spaces, which I'd never done before. And it was challenging. But once you do your first 4 to 8 hours, you're like, okay, now I know.
Yeah,
I would agree with Brian. I think Japanese live action is probably the most difficult.
Yeah.
I think for myself, it wasn't anime at all, my first awkward experience. It turned out fine, but it was something that I hadn't really done before, and that was the beginning kind of the using my boy voice, but not for cartoons. What was the series? Adrian, what's his name? He had a cape. That dark, handsome guy, and it went on and on and on. I can't even remember it. But
it was animation?
No, it was live. It was a drama. It was a TV series, and the actual actor's name was Adrian something. I can't remember. I think you know what. Highlander. Okay.
Thank you.
So I got called in one time, and they say, we hear that you do specialty stuff, and we're kind of in a pickle. And I said, oh, okay. What does this mean? And he said, well, in one of the shows, the Highlander is going to be meeting himself as a boy. So he's going back in time, and we cast this boy who did a very good job of acting, but he has a very high-pitched nasal voice as his own voice, but he's really handsome. Could you be the voice? I'm like, what? So he said, seriously, we don't know what to do. We hear you do specialty stuff. And I said, well, I can certainly try. And oh, by the way, you have to have a Scottish accent. I said, really? And they said, yeah, can you do that?
No problem.
So, and I was like, oh, this is kind of a cool challenge, right? I hadn't done this before. So, it was the first time I had to play it so real that it was just like flat as can be, and it was really subtle, and I had to have the slightest Scottish accent, and they were like, that's awesome, that's what we want, blah, blah, blah. And that was kind of my first experience of doing that kind of thing with that voice. It was like an odd job to do, but that kind of started, I guess, the boy thing. But you really had to, you had to mind the technical stuff, but you still had to be so connected to the acting, because it was such an important scene where he's meeting himself as a boy, and he's like, are you for real? Like, like this kind of thing is like, yeah, And he's like, are you a ghost? Like, kind of thing. And they're like, yeah, I am. And it was just sort of like, so it was like, and it was so.
Yes, amazing. That was you all.
Yeah, he was on something. I don't know what's wrong with him. But, so it was like, I was hired, and I'm like, holy crap, I actually have to do this really well, because it's really subtle. And you're not, they didn't want that you could tell it was dubbed. Like you just couldn't.
We have to
it.
find this episode now, people.
So I forget what it was called. It was a fun episode and a good one. He had quite a role, but I felt for the actor because the actor had to be redubbed, and he did an awesome job of on-camera acting, but his voice was very nasal. So it was very odd. But that was like, okay, good.
Good question.
We did it.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Roy.
Hi.
I was wondering, outside of Japanese, what is your favorite or your most difficult language to dub over?
Dutch.
To
No,
dub?
I haven't done Dutch.
Dutch?
Um,
Oh, I thought you were
language?
really serious.
Well, you know, what's interesting is French is tough because of the U's, even though it's not really
Yeah,
tough.
like
It's
we're-
like U.
You gotta
And
figure out how to make
we did Italian as well once, I remember, like in the very beginning days.
I've done Farsi.
Have you?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
That'll be tough, yeah.
But I was just so completely clueless about what was actually going on that I think it probably just fit. Like I hope it fit because they passed it forward. So, yeah, that was interesting. It was interesting to like when they would turn up the Farsi so I could hear it. That was really cool. So,
I think in the early days too, when we didn't have the digital thing that really helped us out. Did I cut you off?
no, not at all.
Sorry. I was just going to say that in those days, the direction they would give us is that all you have to do is really just start after the beep, and the writer has written a line long enough so it should fit your natural conversation. So some of the time, if you have you get started off with a beep system, and then you have a paragraph, not just a line, but a paragraph, and you're like kind of doing this, or you start off and you do your conversation, and like when I watch it through the first time, if it's a big one, I will put like a dash where I think that I see the pauses. And then I just think, okay, just be conversational. And it usually works out because they wrote it to a natural conversational pace. And then you have to adjust it. So it doesn't matter what language that one is. It's just, that's how we had to do it. It was kind of a hit or miss at the beginning. Now we're happy. It's digital.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any language for me that's been specifically more difficult than another for animation dubbing, because I think what was based on for me is if the writer did a good job. If the writer did not do a good job on any language, it is really hard to get it right.
The less complicated and the more stylized the animation is, the better.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, there's a lot of anime, even in the original, where the voice opens, or the mouth opens, and there's all these syllables. Like when you hear the actual original production, you go, how did they get away with that? Like it just opens up, but it's not even moving. And I go, oh, that's gold. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because,
say whatever you like.
The mouth is just a circle.
Yeah.
And then they're like, you know what, just start on time and end on time, we're good.
Yeah.
Where's the coffee?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hey guys.
Hi.
With technology becoming cheaper, more accessible, I'm sure most of you have your own home studios or even do your auditions on your cell phones. With that, do you find that doing either your own auditions or auditions on your cell phone that you can actually portray the same performance that you need to versus going into a studio to do an actual audition?
That is the question of the year. Isn't it, everybody? Who wants to
I like
dig
working
into
alone.
that?
I
do too.
You like
And I don't.
We like them working alone.
It's mutual, so everyone's happy.
Just a cell phone in your closet, huh?
But I have recorded in. I've recorded in cars. I've recorded in closets. I've recorded in pillow forts, and I've recorded from anything from an iPhone, preferably not. Although I do plug into an iPhone with a great mic, and that I've done it that way. It's only serviceable. It's not optimum. Never is.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of the times, personally, I really. It's not that I have anything against directors. But sometimes you just want to give them your thing, right?
Yeah.
Especially if it's an audition.
Yep.
Just you're either going to get it or you're not,
Yep.
right? So
Totally.
And they hear your voice quality, so they think, first of all, are you in the ballpark? Do you have the general pacing of it? But so it is good. I agree with Ian that you have the flexibility, because then you can take it again and again, or you can edit the way you want, and then you've done what you've wanted to do. But the downside is we don't have a director, so they do know a little more than we do, so they can just kind of nudge it that way or that way, and then we're now further in the ballpark.
Right.
And if you have a good microphone too, like if you're using your phone, it's pretty darn good quality. But if you have a really good mic, that does help, but it's not necessary for auditions, I don't think.
Marÿke and I were just talking about this the other day, that it's great to be able to, I'm a little bit outside of Vancouver, only about a 35-minute drive. But so when we used to always have to audition for anything, you'd have to go to the studio and audition. It's a lot of time sitting in a car having to go do it, and you're in there for 5 minutes, and you're out, and you're done.
But it's
oh,
the
man.
camaraderie.
Yeah. No, not so much. Yeah. I'm a little bit with Ian. I'm fine to do things alone, but I do know I spend way more time now than I probably would have than if I had the audition in the, just go in and let them do it. Because the engineer does all the editing, and you have one crack at it, you got to get it done. But when I'm at home, instead of a 5-minute audition, I'm fooling around for 3 hours, and then I go, maybe that's not right. Since I don't have a director to tell me if that's right, I'll try this take as well.
For another
and I
3
do
hours.
another couple hours on that take, and maybe not that long, but then, maybe it's older. It's not really clear. I don't have anybody to ask. I'll try this take as well.
Now I'm feeling lonely.
So I'm sending in 4 reads because the breakdown wasn't very clear. So, and it just said, he's this guy, he's that. And I'm like, I don't really know. And when you do go in the room and you say, is it an old guy or young guy? And they say, oh, actually, he's probably about his 20s. Oh, throw those other ones out I was going to do. But when I'm at home, I don't know. So I kind of send them all. So I do end up.
These are what you call first-class problems, because when you only have like 3 voices, you just throw them on.
Well, the other thing that I think we all mutually love is when they give you an audition and they tell you they want you to do mid-Atlantic accent or throw on a touch of, well, it's not as often, Russian, Scottish or Russian or something like this. And so then we kind of go, okay, and then you get there and go, oh, no, we don't want that. We actually want it to be Australian or something, or we just, no, we don't want it that now or something. So then you think, well, how much do I do that? Don't I do that? I give them a take, then I give them one without it. So I usually give one without it now too, because oftentimes they don't call for it anymore. Things change when you get there.
Yeah.
It changes. It's like, no, they don't want that anymore.
But technology is your friend.
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
In
so
this case,
Pro Tools, Logic, Nuendo.
Pro Tools.
Pro Tools is your favorite?
Pro Tools.
I use Twisted Wave.
Yeah.
It's simple, it's cheap, it works really well. And when you're doing what we're doing, you only need 1 track. So
That's right.
it reduces all the clutter of your screen. You see 1 track in front of you, you need to cut. It's like.
I have Pro Tools right now, and it is all set up for me by an engineer, so it can be simply used, but it scares me to death when I push the wrong buttons.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm like, I lost it all. Because there is
Simple
so
is
much.
better.
Yeah, simple is better for what we do.
Or better yet, your Mac just keeps shutting down on itself like it did for me 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Oh, that's not
that was real fun. No, that was not good.
Technology is not your friend.
It's not at times.
Good question, thanks.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Hiya, folks. How are you doing?
Hi.
Good.
How are you?
Your one
Hey,
and
do
only
you
friendly
really
neighborhood Spider-Man.
climb walls?
Oh, yes, I do.
Awesome.
Fab.
I can do fancy tricks too. Now, considering all the technicalities of voice acting, in your opinion, would you say that voice acting in general is more difficult than live acting? Or would you say that both are equally the same in difficulty?
Different.
They're very different.
different.
Very different, I think.
For me, personally, I would say that voice acting is way easier because I can't do on screen because I can't remember a flippin' line.
Right.
To save my life. I remember doing a commercial when I was young. It's like, a commercial is only going to be 60 seconds long at the most. I couldn't remember the lines. So that's my story. But it's just different.
Yeah, it's different. I find one of the things about having done kind of across the gamut of different kinds of mediums that you can work in, there's an aspect of pressure that doesn't exist in VO, and it's appearance-based. I started to really kind of get tired of feeling like I was wrong physically a lot of the time.
Too tall, too short, ears
not,
too big,
not
not
blonde,
big enough.
all that other stuff that shouldn't come into play because you're an actor and you're portraying a character, but does when you've got a visual aspect of performance. And so I kind of find VO is just very kind of pure. As Ian said, you're either going to get it or you're not. There isn't this whole thing of, we really liked you, but you're too short. That's just so crazy to hear.
And
so that's my feeling.
That's one of the reasons why, and Brian will probably agree with this, I had no problem encouraging or allowing my kids to be involved in voiceover as a business, because it doesn't carry that weird.
You're not pretty
you're
enough.
not cute
Yeah.
enough,
Yeah.
or
And
you're
that's what you
not
hear as a
this,
girl,
or you're
too,
not
for
that.
sure.
You know, you can look like this and play a hero.
This.
Yeah.
You know, one,
Score.
one thing I think though, and so those are totally the differences. I would say the commonality is that it's still acting.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
whether you're doing
It's
a
not
commercial
funny voices.
that's a natural commercial about whatever, they want you to use your natural voice, and they want it to be relaxed, and they want it to be conversational, but you're still a person. You're not thinking, I'm going to say that line up, I'm going to say that line down, I'm going to put a happy face when I start this new line.
Yeah.
You are a person speaking about something to another person or people. So you take on, it's the same sort of thing when you're doing on-camera acting, although you've memorized your lines. Once you've done that, you're free to perform and be the character. So whether you're a talking potato in animation or a human being drawn character, you still are that persona. That's the commonality.
We all want to have control over, our income source and what we do, and I certainly found in voiceover, I have so much more control over whether I get the gig or not, because I can act better, come up with some better voices. I can control that. But in on-camera work, there was way more things that I had zero control over.
Yep.
Right.
Oh, sorry. So in a way, you have more opportunities in voice acting than you do in, and less fear than you do in live acting, you would say?
Yeah, that'd be a good way to put it. Sure.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that, Cathy's, was it when she was explaining earlier about the fact that she was playing, I don't know how old, 8-year-old boy. She wouldn't be doing that in live action on screen unless it was a very strange movie, right?
That's right.
So
Which is possible now.
Which is possible, and you could, like a
Very
Tim Burton
strange,
movie, that might happen in that. But, where we get to play anybody.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's really fun and freeing.
Yeah.
And they cast for voiceover by listening to you and seeing if that fits what they imagine the character to sound like, versus looking at an 8x10 photo, which is your resume for on-camera acting, and saying what categories does he or she fit by how they look. So by how we sound is how they place for categorizing in audio, in voiceover.
Yeah.
So that does happen, categorizing in that sense, but there is a bigger range. And if you are like a major television actor, like that's your prime thing, and you do voiceover, you will be getting more opportunities than what we do, because we don't primarily do that TV thing.
You wouldn't have a
I
Matt
do it,
Hill
but it's
like
not
we
my
have
primary.
in
But if you were
Vancouver.
like
Yes, that's
first
right.
and foremost a television actor, and you did voice acting, you'd be getting a lot more auditions for that too. It's
A 45-year-old guy like Matt Hill, who's the best teenage boy voice in the city of Vancouver,
Yep.
and has been for 30 years.
Yep,
Yep.
amazing.
Yeah.
Good question. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks,
great.
folks.
Thank you.
Just to let everyone know, we have about 15 minutes left, so
Woo.
we can
We'll burn
take
through
a
the
few
questions.
more
Let's burn.
questions.
Here we go.
Hi.
Yeah.
Hi.
This is mostly about DBZ, but I guess all anime. So when you get a line where it says, okay, this flap says like, oh, the word is you, but it's a big hammy like DBZ loves, like at the end of the line.
Yeah.
Do you ever let that influence? Because I hear like a lot of DBZ characters, and for some reason it's really DBZ, where like, all I want is a piece of like, yeah, where instead of just you, like the actor tried to make it like, yeah, to justify the ah. Do you let what you see in the frame influence how you deliver a vowel?
It's exactly what Brian said.
It's just what we were
You're
saying.
just trying to make it fit,
Yeah.
and trying to make it. You're constantly like squeezing words into different spaces.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
Or
in
stretching
that
them in.
instance, it might be the you, or turning it into a you, or it's something else. You might start it at the beginning of the line, but it's just about making stuff fit.
But it's interesting because it's also, I've noticed over the years, it's the director too, because there are some companies that want you to fit that sucker like to the T,
Oh, yeah.
and others are like, you know what, that's fine.
That's great.
Yeah, so it depends on the director,
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, then that
definitely.
doesn't matter so much.
And I know,
But some, it really matters.
and I know for over 9,000 that line, I'm positive we talked about changing the line. I'm like, this is terrible.
I don't think you should be ashamed of that. I thought
No,
you killed
well,
it.
it's gone somewhere, but I was like,
They
well,
want
this,
us to, too.
This needs to be something else, and I'm pretty sure I talked to Carl, who was directing at the time, and say, can we say, when Napa says what's his power level, and he says it's over 9,000, can I say it's because with the holding mouth open, can I say
it's quite a lot?
It's 9,000. No,
We're like, it's 9,000.
We tried things, and you're like, nah, they're not going to want this. So just leave it. Move on, Brian.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Yeah.
Oh, now just before this next question, does everyone know who this is? Who's
Yes.
gonna
Do
ask the
you?
question?
Don't do it.
This is the great, this is
Sonia?
the brave and glorious Sonia!
Round of
Who
applause.
has made this convention what it is. And
Sorry, I didn't mean to embarrass you.
So my question is this. Do you find yourself more and more actually studying the source material, maybe subtitled or something like that, when you're going to go into an anime, to familiarize yourself with the original speech and the patterns?
That's a good question.
No, not at all.
Not at all.
No, not at all.
You never. We never.
We never get any of that stuff before.
No.
No.
Do they tell you which animes you're going to be working on?
Yes,
Oh.
we know what show we're going in for.
Yeah, you know what show you're going in for, but it's not like we're going to send you DVD copies or digital copies of the
Japanese
sub
original
Japanese
and-
version for you to watch first and hear
I
the
guess
script. No,
We could.
we could probably
We
really.
could.
We could, but they
because
don't.
I know this stuff exists out there, but usually stuff happens pretty quick, and you find out, we want you to, and you show up tomorrow.
Yeah, and by the
So
time you order that
would
on
never
Amazon.
have an opportunity unless you were a total fan, which I'm
Well,
sure
that,
there's
that was my follow-up. Have you guys become fans of the genre?
In some shows, yes. Some shows I've watched a lot of the series. But to follow your point, some of the shows, like I'm doing a show with my son where Aiden and I are on a show called The Little Prince, which is a French show. But those shows air in France, and literally like the following week, we're getting the package to record. So there's been no subtitle. It's not even out there yet for us to see. There's no opportunity for us to even see it. So the first time it's even been in a room to be dubbed is when we get it to put it in English. So there's no chance to see it.
And so dubbing, ADR, is we heavily rely on the director.
Yeah, we do, definitely.
Very heavily
know the show.
compared to
To
the
know it.
other shows, because we don't.
Yeah,
we
they
don't
gotta
have
be-
that pre-interest that a lot of the fans do. We have to do it, as they say, we get it quick, we got to do it quick, and we have to let go and let the director guide us. So that's the truth about it.
I like the element too of being surprised. Like where I don't know exactly where this character is going to go off to. And so I don't mind having come up with my own idea of what's going to happen because I could have looked it up by watching the Japanese original with sub or whatever. I kind of like going, a year later going, that's what happened. So anyway, that kind of interests me.
And maybe do you occasionally go back and look at the original Japanese?
I mean, I don't watch a lot of the stuff that I have recorded. There's been a couple things that I've watched. I watched all of Black Lagoon except for Roberta's Blood Trails just because I haven't had a chance to. But I watched that entire show. I loved that show. And so I did watch that, but I don't usually go back. I don't know about you guys, but...
You're watching so much of it when you're there. It's like when you're a main character for sure. If you have small parts, maybe not. But when you're a main character, like obviously Vegeta and Ryuk in Death Note, when you're in the show all the time, you really get a good idea of exactly what's going on. Anyhow, so we sort of see it before anyone gets to see it.
And it's a little bit like the old expression of the shoemaker's
Shoemaker in the shoes. I was just
children.
thinking that too.
Don't always have the rotten shoes, because you do it all day. You kind of go, nah, I kind of had enough of that. I'm going to watch.
Yeah, you might just
gonna
wanna watch the
Breaking
hockey
Bad.
game.
Yep.
Or the hockey
Or
game.
go for a walk and not
or a
do
soccer
anything
game.
related to audio or
Like
anything.
Go Whitecaps Go.
Yeah.
No.
Thanks,
Thank
Sonia.
you,
Quick question.
Sonia.
Thanks, Sonia.
We need
Thank
more
you.
information from you guys half the time, as far as the
These are great
nuances.
Yeah.
Hello, one and all. It's
Hi.
nice to see you all again.
Hello.
Nice to
and
see you.
I also want to say, right now, my voice is a little hoarse.
Yours is.
Oh.
I didn't follow Ian's advice yesterday. I'm sorry. Anyways, my question is, I'm seeing you all doing all these different things, and I'm just kind of curious. How did you expand your range? Like I'm seeing Andrea Libman, like you were talking earlier yesterday, that she'd be having conversations with herself. She's Fluttershy, and then she's Pinkie Pie, and that's just crazy to me thinking about that. So, like, did you make any tips for yourself to do that, or anything like that?
I think honestly, we develop them as the auditions come in.
Yeah, I'd say
and
that.
then try to stretch ourselves with whatever we may see or whatever we end up hearing, or if we see a show, then we think, oh, that's cool, that's interesting, let's try that, or yada yada. So for myself, I kind of develop it as I'm given the challenge, I think. And then I understand what I shouldn't do, or what's not fitting, and then I sort of try something else. So I think in the beginning, if you're a new voice actor, I think you may be more diligent with that sort of thing and exploring different things and trying different levels and that sort of thing. But after we've done it for a certain length of time, I think you just rise to the challenge when the auditions come in. Would you guys say that?
Yeah, and I think too, where somebody was asking earlier about the technology, I think that's where that's helped me a little bit, is now I have the opportunity to really actually, with a proper mic and a good recording system, is to actually listen to what I just did and then evaluate it properly so that I can make adjustments in my own work habits that end up giving maybe some better characters that I could have done before, just because I have the opportunity to reflect.
I think I use the technology is great too because I go online all the time and just steal stuff from anybody I can. Listen to other things, and if I see a breakdown that's a character that says it's like this, I'm like, I haven't really done anything like that. What could that be? And I'll try and steal some things. And I was just chatting with Erin Matthews about this. She was on MLP as well, great Vancouver voice actress. She said she wanted to learn how to do little boys' voices because
she's so good at
she's
them.
great at it.
Oh, she's so good at them.
And she said she watched Monster House like 15 times. Her kids couldn't handle it. It was it's a movie. I don't know if it's DreamWorks or which one it is, but she watched it over and over again. There's some boy characters, young boy characters in it. And she just studied it and tried to figure out how to make herself have a great little boy voice. And she's made a lot of money because she figured out how to do that, and that was just her hard work.
That was the cool thing.
We've got 5 minutes left, so I think we have time for one, maybe two more questions.
How many people are there in the line?
There's only
There's
four,
three.
3 or 4.
There's 4?
Let's go quick.
How-
We'll burn. Let's
and
burn.
Let's try and burn through
Lightning
them.
round.
Okay, so
Hi,
We
Brad.
won't all
I'll be
answer.
very- Hi,
We'll
Mark.
each answer one.
Hi. Hi, Cathy.
Hello.
So my question is, I guess, simple. Depends on how long-winded you are. But
We're long.
yes. But when you do prelay animation, like My Little Pony, and you're all in the room together, and you're kind of that energy, and you're playing off of each other, versus ADR and dubbing, where you're alone in the booth, and it's just the sound guy and the director. How do you kind of maintain that sort of energy when you really have no one to play off of anymore?
Professionalism.
Yeah.
Seriously.
It is.
Yeah,
And a really good example of that is the biggest animation projects in the world, Disney, Pixar, DreamWorks, 90% of those are done individually.
One at a time.
So
You see those behind the scenes on the DVD? They really are recording on their own.
yeah. So and that's due to big stars, big schedules,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So sure, it's nice to be in the room together, but you just need to, crank up that
You're being paid,
energy
you
and
better
use
bring
your
it.
imagination and go, okay, this is my job.
And that's, I think, the key. It's imagination. It's imagining yourself in that scene. Attend to your character. Attend to what's happening around you in the story, and you'll be there. You'll get there.
And you come with a choice based on what you know it to be. And then if you're lagging or you're a little bit low energy or maybe too much so, then you, again, rely on the director to gauge it.
I'm a little bit like
Next
nowadays
question.
because everything is everywhere all the time. Instead of being able to say, I'm like, who's gonna see this? I can't put no energy into this. This is going
There we
nowhere.
are.
No.
I'm like, anytime anything is recorded in any format, whether it's be you guys and this camera or whatever, I better bring it because it somehow make it good enough so that I'm not embarrassed.
That's right.
Down the road,
Yeah.
it just has to be decent, or don't take the job if it's not going to be decent.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. So that's my. I gotta
Yes,
feel like
totally.
someone's gonna see this. It better be good.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
Marÿke, for tradition, how about a
Yes.
quote from Revy?
You want to die, Benny?
Nice.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mark.
Hi, Mark.
Hi, Mark.
I had a question that you guys have probably been asked a lot, and as an aspiring voice actor, what advice do you have for getting into the industry? Because I have a voice acting coach, Miss Julie Madalena, who voices in Monster High, and I'm recording my demo reel next Sunday. But I mean, besides that, and like getting an angel agent.
An angel too.
They're there
Angel
too.
to
Yeah, that wouldn't hurt.
Watch over
Yeah,
me,
you need
Lord,
one of those.
and help
That would
me.
not
But,
hurt.
what other advice do you have for really trying to embed yourself in the industry and make a name for yourself?
Two things. Where do you live?
I live in Southern California, in Santa Clarita.
How close
Okay,
is that to
so
Los
you're
Angeles?
you're close to LA.
About an hour drive with traffic, about 45 to 30
Yeah.
minutes.
So okay,
That's
so
good.
that there's step one. Live in a major center, even with all this technology. That's really important because that's where the work is. And then secondly, do what you're already doing, which is take lots of acting classes. Learn to act.
Not just voice ones.
Get on stage.
Yes.
Do theater.
I did theater in high school. I got to be a JB Bigley in How to Succeed in Business without really trying. That was
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
Congratulations.
Keep
So that-
doing it.
Keep
Improv is
doing
fun.
all that.
Yeah, and
doing
record
it.
yourself. Record yourself and listen back and be aware of energy, clarity, making it visual with reactions, and but taking direction is going to be what they listen for in the end.
I do that all the time. I got my headphones that run my audio right as I'm speaking right into my ears, so I'm able to make adjustments right on the fly, and it's awesome.
That's
Oh
great.
no! Did
Yeah,
we
that's
just cut off like just the last couple of people with questions?
Can we go over? Can we go over just to answer
Just
those two questions?
we'll
I
answer
don't-
them really quick.
Two more questions.
Last
Can we
two
do it?
questions.
Thanks. Great question.
Purple
and
hair,
good luck.
purple
Good
hair,
luck.
and purple shirt.
You're welcome.
Real quick.
What's your favorite voice? Your voice.
Favorite voice?
Favorite voice?
No, your favorite role.
Which what?
Your favorite role.
Favorite role?
That's your voice.
Oh, my favorite,
Favorite role.
Revy in Black Lagoon is my favorite, and I really like Susan Test and Johnny Test. Ian and I have done that show
Yep.
together. That's my answer.
Favorite anime would be two, Ryuk and Vegeta, favorite animes. I love the fact that I got to play Dr. Claw in Inspector Gadget in a new version that we did.
That's cool.
So one of my favorites. And recently got to play Wolverine. Those are two of my favorites as well.
That's awesome.
Prelay, Spike, of course, and Cyber 6, anime, Shampoo in Ranma 1/2, and Near in Death Note. A few, but those are.
Goku, anime,
Young Trunks too. Yeah.
and Prelay. Let's just go with coconuts from Sonic the Hedgehog.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Next.
Cool, next.
Great.
I mean last.
Yay! That's
You
awesome.
made it.
Thanks, guys.
No problem.
This one's for Cathy. Every time I watched the Spike voice come out of your mouth in the panel yesterday, it was a total cognitive disconnect.
Yep.
So if you could just say a little bit about what it was like to develop that voice, that would be really exciting. Thanks.
Oh, thank you.
Well, you're a rarity after all, right? Okay.
Just auditions that came in, I started to try to do boy voices in different ways. The first boy voice I did, someone told me it sounded like a female crow, and I have no future. So, but I didn't give up, and here I am. Somebody.
Who can you guess? Come on.
And it wasn't a director. It wasn't a director. Anyway,
okay.
and so, but the other thing too is, this is just helpful for people. If you're a woman or a girl and you want to learn how to do this, you can do a little exercise where you can just breathe, ha, 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 ha.
Whoa! Hey!
Hey, what's up? Shut up.
Right? So you can sort of move into it, but watch your clarity when you do it, and you can support
Will that
yourself.
work for guys with high-pitched voices?
No.
Because I've been trying to do those low heroic
That's just
voices
tightening
for
your
years.
belt, and
Oh,
it's
all
just
right.
getting weird. Thank you for your
Thank you.
question.
Hey,
That was
thanks
really
for all
Totally
you guys.
awesome. Thanks so much.
Thank you everybody so much for coming. This has been
we have
the
one more
dub
question?
voice acting.
One last.
Oh, thanks, Rina.
Ian, can
Yes.
you say pink fluffy unicorns dancing around rainbows in Goku's voice? Thank you.
Pink fluffy what?
Pink fluffy unicorns
Dancing
dancing
on
on rainbows. Pink
Pink fluffy unicorns dancing on rainbows?
Oh
Are
my
you
God.
kidding?
It's not a question, Ian. Oh my God.
That's not what you saw. It's just me in my pink
not what he
shirt.
said.
All right, and with that, we are
Thank
out,
you,
guys.
everybody. Thank you.
so
Happy
much for
Easter
coming.
and happy
We give it up
Passover.
one more time for
Thank
our
you all
talented
for
guests.
coming.
We have Marÿke Hendrikse, Brian Drummond, Cathy Weseluck, and Ian Corlett. Thank you so much for being
Thank
here
you.
today.
Thanks, guys. And honestly, that was a group of the best questions that I've ever dealt with. So thank you very much.
Come and see us for autographs. If not, have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.